The word malaria stems from Latin and means bad air, a reference to the Middle Age belief that malaria was transmitted through the inhalation of toxic vapors from bodies of water. As one of the oldest diseases, malaria originated in Africa and co-evolved with its host, the Anopheles mosquito. Last year, there were over 219 million cases of malaria in 87 countries across the globe and in every continent except Antarctica, with approximately 500,000 of those cases resulting in death. While these statistics are staggering, malaria is also known for its capability to cripple the economic and cultural infrastructure of many of the countries in which it inhabits. In particular, Italy has had a complex history with malaria. While the disease devastated the population for centuries, it also played an integral role in advancing political and economic frameworks. Initial recordings date back to ancient Greece, in which Greek settlements along the southern Italian peninsula were inflicted with what was known in Greek as miasma. This miasma is often cited as malaria and is a potential reason for the decline of these Greek settlements and of the following Roman Empire. During the Middle Ages, the spread of malaria is associated with artificial changes in the environmental landscape. Deforestation of the Apennine Mountains continued to alter the environment of southern Italy, increasing the size of the marshes in the surrounding lowlands. As the marshes grew, so did the area in which the Anopheles mosquitoes could live, spreading the malaria further inwards and up the Italian peninsula. This led to a phenomena of progressive abandonment, in which southern Italians fled their farmlands in fear of the malarial diffusion. By the end of the Middle Ages, the spread of malaria contributed to the loss of about 2 million hectares of fertile agricultural land. Until this point, there was no widespread mission to exterminate malaria. Most measures taken were pseudoscientific in nature, such as drinking red wine or fumigating homes via the burning of pine needles. Groups that attempted to fight malaria, such as the Benedictine and Cistercian monks, performed massive land reclamation movements through the drainage of marshland and the establishment of flooding control systems. However, these groups often succumbed to malaria while working, leading to their deaths. As a result, southern Italy was in disarray. Farmers lived on hills and walked hours every day to their fields in an attempt to avoid illness. Poverty was widespread, illiteracy remained the norm, and many individuals attempted to emigrate out of the region to northern Italy, where life was more hospitable. This changed when the Risorgimento movement captured Rome in 1870. According to Frank Snowden, in an attempt to demonstrate political power and legitimacy, the new secular government launched a campaign to exterminate malaria. In fact, prominent leaders of the reunification movement blamed the Pope for the continued spread of the malaria. As part of this new government, Senator Luigi Torelli drafted the first map of malarial Italy and wrote several books, including La Malaria d'Italia and Il Curato di Campagna, to garner attention and support for an extermination movement. Senator Torelli grasped the underlying economic and health costs of the disease, believing that by declaring a national war on the tyranny of malaria, the government would improve productivity immensely. Through Torelli's efforts, in 1874, the Italian government established 4 rural health stations in the region surrounding Rome. These stations were used to collect epidemiological data on malaria. Alongside these stations, the government attempted a massive land reclamation project that failed miserably. Workers died continuously, and the drainage canals acted as habitats for mosquitoes, spreading the disease further. That being said, the knowledge gained from these endeavors was beneficial for 2 distinct reasons. For one, the health stations provided empirical proof of the devastating effects malarial symptoms had on the southern Italian populace, garnering further support for the extermination of malaria. Second, Italian scientists were able to generate an understanding of the life cycle of Plasmodium, the parasite associated with malaria. Using this research, Italian scientists determined that quinine, a drug extracted from the bark of the cinchona tree, killed Plasmodium at a vulnerable stage in its life cycle. 2 Italian physicians, Giovanni Battista Grassi and Angelo Celli, theorized different cost-effective approaches for exterminating malaria, and in 1900, the Italian government attempted to eradicate malaria through chemotherapy with quinine. This approach had several important components that helped shape Italy's social and economic structure. Primarily, quinization was organized as a landlord-funded project, one in which individual workers received quinine from their landlords as a medicinal right. As a result, workers who were not receiving quinine were urged by pro-quinine activists to charge employers with criminal negligence. This mobilized unionization and is one of the factors that led to the Italian labor movement. While quinization proved useful, the drug was not the cure-all required by the Italian government. In fact, when World War I broke out, quinine was no longer accessible, and previously quashed mortality rates skyrocketed. With the rise of Mussolini, emphasis on quinine disappeared, and instead, Italian efforts focused on land reclamation and mosquito population control through Paris Green, an effective larvicide. Again, with the onset of World War II, Mussolini's efforts to exterminate malaria were reversed, and it was not until the advent of DDT in 1945 that Italy was able to launch an extermination campaign that proved successful. Through this entire history, there is one generalized trend that has significantly impacted the social and political landscape more than any other: the localization of deadly malarial strains in southern Italy. Because of this phenomena, the productivity of southern Italy has been historically diminished in comparison to its northern counterpart. For example, during railroad construction in the south, workers died often, preventing any major advancements from occurring. Southern Italians themselves experienced stunted growth and shorter lifespans, crippling their productivity and social mobility. Since the eradication of malaria, life in southern Italy has improved, but the disparity between the north and south continues to this day, materializing predominantly in political movements. Furthermore, while there are few cases of malaria in Italy each year, groups in Italy, such as refugees from the Syrian refugee crisis, maintain the status that southern Italians had during the previous centuries.